felt it would give us the best access to the strongest possible group of senior insurance decision makers.
Insurtech Insights is a must-do conference, I think, for the network that is built here.
Thank you. Right, good morning, everyone. We're going to talk to you today about the potential we see for preventative genetic testing in life and health insurance, and the potential to integrate the technology for the benefit of policyholders and the benefit of insurers and reinsurers such as me. So generally, genetic testing is viewed, or discussed anyway, in quite a negative light in the field of life and health insurance. We have agreed as an industry in most markets across the globe, the UK included, that we won't use the results of genetic testing in assessing individuals' risk, except in some very specific circumstances. And that leads to the potential for an asymmetry of information of the risk that someone poses to an insurer between the policyholder and the insurer, and then the potential for anti-selection. And that certainly is a challenge. We're not downplaying that as a challenge for the industry, but we also wanted to look at the potential positives from genetic testing and what benefits it could bring to the products and to policyholders. And this comes largely from the health insights that you can get from this sort of technology. So the technology, as you may know, is really developing all the time, and there's a lot of health insights that people can get, insights into their own risk factors that might drive different behaviors and help them to live healthier lives. And ultimately, from an insurance point of view, healthier policyholders means fewer claims and the potential to offer more competitive terms and increase sales. Genetic testing is also becoming increasingly affordable. You could get your whole genome sequenced for something in the order of a couple of £100 these days, and that's a marked improvement from, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when you were talking more like millions of pounds, and those prices will continue to come down. So ultimately, what we're looking for here is to base something on the alignment of interest we have between policyholders and insurers. Policyholders want to be healthier, want to live longer. They might not always make decisions that is consistent with that aim, but ultimately, if we're able to give them simple and easy steps that they can take to achieve that, then they're likely to act on it, and that's in everybody's interest. So we designed a pilot working with GenePlanet to look at this potential technology. This was a pilot that was run amongst staff within Hannover Re. And we were looking at evaluating the technology, how we might integrate it into our products, how engaged policyholders are likely to be, and just basically assess the policyholder experience with the technology and its potential to ultimately reduce claims in the future. So I'm going to hand you over to Matthias now, who'll talk a little bit about the technology and what's possible now.
Thank you, Tim. So going maybe a little bit into an introduction about genetics and why genetics. If we have a look at each other here in the room, we are genetically almost identical, 99.9%. This is why we have 2 hands, 5 fingers, a pair of eyes, and so on. But the 0.1% of differences is something which we can see, different eye color, hair color, skin color, somebody's taller, somebody's smaller. But for us as a company, it's the hidden differences which are there between us and we cannot see. So differences when it comes to nutrition, how we react to different kinds of nutrients, when it comes to sports, and also when it comes to disease predispositions. And this is where we want to go into a personalized approach, providing people with your unique needs and also a well-being plan or a guidebook, how to address different actions and different topics to achieve something positive. Now, from a client perspective, we have a very easy, scalable process because clients don't actually have to go to a certain location, but we bring everything to the client's home. So we've been now working together with insurers for several years, and how it happens is that they send us an eligibility list of hundreds or thousands of people from a certain country or region, and we then send out those kits to the individual. It's a 5-minute process. You give a small saliva sample, you register on our app, and then your journey essentially starts. An important part are the DNA results. So this is where our company is a little bit different in the well-being or preventive approach, because we really want to work with objective data. And the first set of objective data we get from the DNA tests, and we see that it's like a color-coded differences, whether my personal results are something about metabolism of iron or vitamins or muscle structure. We explain transparently what is included, what is shown. We provide also then specific recommendations based on your unique results. Also, the science behind it is transparently shown, so with scientific studies, with the genetic markers which we have tested, so everyone can actually double check on this, also with their doctors, and follow up on those instances. But as part of the journey which we have, we also have additional elements. So the DNA predispositions are the starting point from what we are given. But then we also have elements like our proprietary health score, which is assessing the current status of the individual. Analyzing, let's say, our activity, stress levels, BMI, diet types, and so on. And again, here we want to understand where the person is currently, what are their, let's call it, risk factors, and how they're actually moving and behaving in the future. Are they improving in terms of their well-being and health? Are they reducing? And which areas to actually tackle? This also includes a so-called blood biomarker interpretation layer, where people can actually input or insert their blood reports from whatever laboratory this was done. And again, we explain, for example, what is LDL, HDL, triglycerides, why do we need it in our body? And specifically, if this is not really elevated, then we actually monitor this for the future. Now, in our joint pilot, we actually included all those elements for the participants of Hannover Re to have their personal experience. On the DNA side, we have different options in terms of testing. With insurance partners, we usually start and work with lifestyle-focused analysis on sports and nutrition. But we also have, let's say, more medical tests dealing with, let's say, cardiovascular diseases, cancer, and so on. We offer this as an option to the participants, and virtually also 98% of them decided to also take the My Health analysis. And maybe also some data from our existing partnerships. So I mentioned that we have existing partnerships with different carriers. So we work with Allianz, Generali, Ergo in several countries in Europe. We have high client satisfaction. So people, when they receive the test, really appreciate it. We also see that this personalization, their unique results, is affecting their changes made. So a vast majority of them is taking some action. And especially one part is important that, combining this together with their insurance policy as a preventive benefit regardless of a claim, almost all of them, like 95% of them say it's a valuable, useful addition to what I received as part of my life, my protection, or my health insurance policy. But we also want to achieve some business goals for their insurers, so we have multiple cases where this was actually positively influencing retention, positively influencing sales, and happy to talk about this after the conference. But for the last part, handing back over to Tim, what you actually discovered in your specific group.
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of what we learned from the pilot and our reflections and what we think the opportunities are in future, engagement is a key topic in our industry at the moment. I think most of the value-added services that life insurers have been offering have been focused on engaging policyholders, improving persistency, and reducing lapse rates. And we did see that there was a high level of engagement with the pilot. Now, admittedly, it's a bit of an artificial environment. These were employees of Hannover Re. They were kind of engaged because we told them to be engaged to an extent. But we did find that people were probably more engaged than we expected. The engagement was pretty consistent throughout the pilot, people constantly logging on. And one element that I think drives good engagement is the fact that once your genetic sequence has been sequenced, you have that somewhere sitting. And when there's a new discovery, some new link between a certain part of your genetic code and a prevalence to a certain disease or something, then you can get an update on that. You don't need to go and have another test in order to get that. So you do get ongoing insight, and that's really good from an engagement point of view. We do believe that it could increase and drive sales. We were, I guess, focusing specifically on the UK market. I think it needs to be marketed in the right way. There's obviously a natural lack of trust at the moment between policyholders and insurers across the industry, and it's important to get across that message that it's really only upside here for policyholders, and we're not trying to use their data against them. But if it can be marketed correctly, then I think it's an attractive proposition and something that will help drive sales. And then I guess the holy grail from my point of view as the risk carrier is, can we drive a reduction in claims costs here with this technology? And the pilot wasn't designed to be a statistical analysis of whether that was really possible, but certainly anecdotally, we did see that people changed their behaviors. Some people changed their diet, some people went and sought medical advice for particular things as a result of some of the results that they were seeing. So we definitely think there is potential there, and I think a sort of much larger pilot with many more people across an insurer's portfolio would drive a lot of insight into where exactly we can really achieve that. So that is everything we wanted to share with you today, but we would be very happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that. Does anyone in the audience have any questions? Just put your hand up if you do. Yeah? Can I get the mic over there, please?
Yeah, I was just interested in what approach you would take to not finding cohorts of people that simply do become uninsurable once the genetic traits of some particularly high-risk conditions are unearthed, and how you would approach the common pooling versus a hyper-personalised approach.
Yeah, so I guess the intention here would never be to try and expand this so that we were able to use it for underwriting. The sequence of events would be somebody would need to buy a policy and then they're on risk, and there's nothing we can do about that, whatever their genetic testing results are. And then at some point, maybe over their first year or something, you offer this benefit, and then they're able to understand a bit more about their genetic makeup. The concern from a reinsurance point of view and an insurance point of view then is probably anti-selective lapsing, and people that are shown to have particular prevalence for certain conditions will value their policy more and keep hold of it. And others might lapse their policy. But I guess if they've bought the life insurance in the first place, there's clearly an insurance need there. And even if you then find out, okay, great, I'm not at huge risk of getting certain types of cancer or whatever it is, then you probably still value that policy. So my expectation would be that's not a deal breaker. And yeah, ultimately, if somebody does find out they have a very significant prevalence to something serious, then they're still on the books. There's no, they don't become uninsurable from the point of view that they've already bought the insurance and we're not using it to underwrite.
Thank you. Have we got any other questions? No? Well, can we please get a round of applause for Tim and Mattia?